What were you thinking? No one will want you now. And how are you going to raise this kid? I'm not going to help you. It's enough that I raised you. That's it. Pack your things and get out of my house." Melanie listened to the screams without raising her head. The last hope that her aunt would let her stay for a while until she got a job was crashing down in front of her eyes. Melanie did not know her father, and her mother had been hit by a drunk driver at a crossing 15 years ago. The child welfare authorities were about to send the girl to an orphanage when suddenly her mother's cousin showed up and took her in. Her aunt lived on the outskirts of a southern border town, green and hot in summer and rainy in winter. Melanie was always well fed and neatly dressed. She certainly lacked her mother's warmth and affection, but no one cared. Melanie studied well. After leaving school, she went to pedagogical college. The merry college years flew by quickly, and now, having received her diploma, she returned to her hometown. After some shouting, her aunt finally calmed down, but she did not change her mind. Melanie silently took her suitcase and went out into the street. She never thought she would return here, humiliated, abandoned, and pregnant, but it happened. She walked down the street immersed in her own thoughts and not noticing anything around her. And the southern summer was in full swing. Apples were ripening in the gardens, peaches were getting golden, and heavy vines were hanging down from numerous arbours. Melanie was very thirsty, so she approached the first house she saw, where a woman in her 50s was sitting in an armchair on the porch. "Excuse me, would you kindly give me some water to drink?" Mrs. Cooper looked back at the voice and invited Melanie to come in, while she herself went into the house for water. Melanie tiredly sat down on a nearby chair and began to drink greedily. "Where did you come from? I see you have a suitcase." "I graduated from college and I want to get a job at the school. I don't have a place to live. Do you know if anyone has a room?" Mrs. Cooper looked at the girl carefully. She was clean, neat, but somehow tired and as if depressed by unhappy thoughts. "You can stay at my place, and it would be more fun for me. I will not take much, but I demand paying on time. If you agree, let me show you the room." Mrs. Cooper was glad that she would have a tenant. The extra money never hurt. Her son lived far away and rarely came to visit her. So, on the other hand, she would have someone to spend the long winter evenings with. And Melanie, still not believing such unexpected luck, hurried after the hostess. The room was small but cosy. They quickly agreed on payment, and the girl, having changed her clothes, went to the Department of Education. And the days flew by. Home, work, home. Mrs. Cooper turned out to be a kind and sympathetic woman, and even became attached to the modest girl. As much as she could, Melanie helped her with household chores, and in the evenings they often had tea sitting in the garden gazebo. The pregnancy had already become visible to other people, and Melanie told Mrs. Cooper her story. In her second year, Melanie fell in love with the handsome Benjamin. His parents were professors at the same college. They did not want to let their son study in another city, and his path was determined beforehand. College, master's degree, university teaching, or scientific activity. The intelligent, well-mannered, easy-going young man had always been the heart of any company, and of course the girls liked him. But he paid his attention to the modest Melanie. Maybe he was attracted by her shy smile, soft brown eyes, or a slender figure. It was hard to say, but for the remaining years of their studies, the young people hardly ever parted. Melanie remembered that awful day to the smallest detail. In the morning, she suddenly remembered that her period was delayed. She rushed to the pharmacy and bought a test. Back at the dormitory, she used it, and to her shock, she saw 2 lines. Melanie did not know how Benjamin would take it, because they were not planning to become parents yet. But after finding out everything, Benjamin decided to introduce Melanie to his parents. Remembering that meeting, The girl could not hold back tears. His parents said that Benjamin needed to pursue his career, and she was not his match. They offered her to have an abortion and to leave the city after her graduation. Melanie could only guess about the conversation they had with their son, but the next day Benjamin went into her room, put an envelope with money on the table, and left, away without word. Melanie did not consider the abortion. She already loved this tiny creature that lived in her. After a little deliberation, the girl decided to take the money that Benjamin had left, deciding that she would still need it. Listening to Melanie's story, Mrs. Cooper openly pitied the girl. "Oh, honey, this is not the worst thing in life. You're not the first woman with such trouble, and you won't be the last. Good for you that you did not have an abortion, did not ruin an innocent soul. The baby is not to blame for anything. He will be your consolation, and then maybe everything will work out for the best." Time passed. Melanie was no longer working and was looking forward to the birth of her baby. At the end of February she went into labour, and Mrs. Cooper took her to the hospital. The birth went smoothly, and Melanie gave birth to a strong, healthy boy, whom she named Tom. Melanie became friends with another woman in the ward, who told her that 2 days ago a woman who was dating the head of the border guard detachment gave birth to a baby girl here. He was coming every day, and he just flooded her with flowers. Only she kept saying she didn't want kids, and got pregnant out of foolishness. And then she ran away from the hospital, leaving a note that she was giving the baby up because she wasn't ready for kids. Can you believe it? "What about the baby?" asked Melanie, almost crying. "They feed her from a bottle, but the nurse said it's better to put her to the breast. But who will agree? Everyone must feed their babies." A few hours later, Melanie came to the nurse's station and told them that she was ready to feed the abandoned girl if necessary. Compared to the sturdy Tom, the little girl was quite tiny. Melanie put her to her breast, and the baby squeezed happily. But after a few minutes, she let out her nipple and gave a sweet sniffle. "As I was saying, she is very weak and is not gaining weight. Formula milk is poorly absorbed," said the nurse. And Melanie began to feed the 2 babies. 2 days later, a nurse came into the ward and said that the girl's father had come and wanted to see the woman who was nursing his daughter. That was how Melanie met Captain Morgan Campbell. He was a man of about 30, medium height, and with a firm look in his blue eyes. The nursing staff of the maternity hospital recollected further events for a very long time, because the ending of that story was worth remembering. On the day Melanie was discharged, Captain Morgan arrived by military jeep, decorated with blue and pink balloons. He helped Melanie to get into the car and then put the babies in the cradles. The first baby was in a blue suit, the second one was in pink. The car horned goodbye and soon drove off, taking the new family to a happy future. That's how it happens. A man does not know what the consequences of his actions would be, and the consequences can be unpredictable, because life presents such surprises, which are simply impossible to think of.